So this is Reimagining AI, brought to you by Global Digital Futures, where we speak to thought leaders, academics, and artists who are interacting and using and having maybe even subversive perspectives on AI. So today we're joined by the amazing duo, Recycle
Thanks.
Group. I loved your panel with Gazelle Art. That's where I was sort of introduced to you and your work, your fantastic work,
Thank you.
integrating AI. So we have Andrei Blokin and George Kustanov. Excuse my
It's
pronunciation.
Kuznetsov. Yeah, it's
Kuznetsov. Amazing. Thank
a cheaper.
you.
Thank you.
And so to start off, just as artists, how did you get into using AI? It's quite, I don't know, a newish thing, let's say in the mainstream anyway. So what was your creative progression into
So,
AI?
actually, we've started to work with AI in 2020 because in 2021 we did the first try with AI. Actually, it was like neural net that was working on the. So there were two rooms like with a positive and negative scenario of your life. So you can prescribe there, can come there and log in with your account in Instagram, for example. And based on your photos, it gives you positive or negative vision, like prediction to you. And that was fun. And there was no chat GPT at those times. And actually, as soon as we are really working a lot with the digital stuff like augmented reality, 3D printing, many things, NFT video and 3D modeling, etc. So of course, AI, we were like kind of focused on it as the whole world. So, and of course, we see these trends and we see how it develops our society. And that what is curious to us, how technologies improves our life, physical life and spiritual, let's say, life. And so that's how we were developing the first projects. Then we did in 2023 we did a show in Gazelle. Then the same year we did a show in Paris where we live in Suzanne Tarasiev Gallery. And we're continuing to work with these tools. Now they are developing and getting better, so it's good. And yep, so that's how we met with AI.
Amazing. I love the experimentation and also how you mentioned that, even ChatGPT wasn't a thing when you were starting out, and how maybe as artists use these things as well, they develop in new ways. I think that's really cool. So can you also please tell us a bit, maybe in a more technical sense as well, how you use AI, maybe using some of your, recent works as an example, how you use AI in the creative process, but maybe also the creative expression of an idea.
Now it took like a big part of our time. Actually, it helped us to create some images, to like change some details on our sketches, preparation, or like also like texting, emailing, everything. Like actually,
No,
it's really like good for
not
research
really using it for
ideas.
texting, but it's okay.
It's good for research for the sujets,
For the scenes, yeah.
for the sense. But anyway, it's like it's just an instrument. First, you should get this image in your head, in your mind, and so
It
it's the
doesn't.
main part. And then you can like express your ideas through the different medias, and you can use a lot of instruments right now. How to bring your idea into the world, and the AI technology is just one of this instrument.
Yeah, it's one of the tool, but we're using it sometimes for generating some parts of the image that then we use for the bas relief, for example. But initially, we know the composition already, so we know how it should be, like where we should have this, that, tree, figure, whatever, and then we doing it, mixing it, and using sometimes as the matrix for the cutting machine for the plastic, for example, like recycled plastic, or for some other stuff. Like it's more for the molds sometimes, but we are not really using it uh, as the source. So we are using it as a tool. And I think that's important part. Like, for example, when Photoshop came up, like everyone said, like, "Oh no, it's you are not an artist if you are using Photoshop." There was some rumors like that. The same with AI, you know, like it depends how you use it. Doesn't matter if you know how to work in Photoshop, that you 100% will have a success, and like it's not obvious, huh? It depends. Like it's another tool which is good, and also like during the last show in Gazelle in London, we were thinking like also about how it could improve our social life globally, like not only the things that we see now, for example, with like when people changing their heads or whatever, like you know in the video and all this stuff. So it was interesting question, like how our society could live with AI in the future. So, and there were some like fantasies about this. Some of them were utopian, but other ones were more realistic, I think. So it's kind of nice to make this experiment and ask the auditorium and ask people what they really think, if it could really happen. For example, if our I don't know, government would be AI algorithm, not a physical person without any ego on the, and all this things like show business. So if it would be an algorithm that could solve the problems of the people in general and could help and improve the life, not make it to worse, like it's not a story about Terminator. So to not be only on this pessimistic side, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you've mentioned like two things that I want to touch on a little bit further. The first is that threat that maybe artists or creative might be feeling about AI, you know. How do you think like maybe more artists can get into this space? Like when you work with AI, do you collaborate with other people like developers, or are you already technically minded and just like really experimental and just try, you know, um, developing and coding out yourselves? Because I think that can also be a block sometimes. Like I would like to incorporate AI in my VR and immersive art, but I think my block can be like, how do I technically upskill, you know?
Yeah, it's actually that's this how we can completely. I think the technical vision of the side is important in these questions, of course, but we cannot code by ourselves everything. Of course, we can. We know some physical part that we should do, but we are not coding. And of course, we are searching for some people and friends who helps us to develop something. Sometimes, like it's our like we have two developers, different people who helps us with the project. So this is like a part of production project as well for the exhibitions, for example, on the same level as you physically produce something. And so yeah, we are hiring sometimes people who help us to make the coding part, of course. So it started with augmented reality in 2016 in New York, first piece we did. Then we continued it in Venice during Biennale twice. And so now we are continuing as well. with augmented reality, because for us it gives another dimension of another perception of the vision as well, which is cool. And I think that it's a real tool that would be useful in future. For sure, it will work with augmented reality. And of course, for such kind of a technical things, we need to have someone who could help us to develop it. And I think for many artists, there are some opportunities, platforms that are collaborating with artists with their AI, and
Yeah, this is a good part.
it's a good part.
I mean, it's a very good part if you have a new media, which is gives possibility to people to meet each other, to create some collaboration together. It's like a new way in art, because in our art we're always like working with many people from different countries, and this is the best part, like for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fully agree with you. Like in my work, I focus on Zimbabwean traditional narratives, and I think that the digital, like working digitally, just allows you to engage more stories that people can actually speak for themselves, and share those stories like remotely, engage collaborators remotely, as you said. So yeah, that collaborative aspect is, yeah, it's really cool. And you mentioned about like new ways of approaching art. I was wondering how you think about, or how you think the way that art is valued is changing, like in a digital sense, you know? Like perhaps with more traditional art, you valued someone's technical ability in painting or, you know, making something physical. How do you think that's shifting, like when it's now in a digital sense?
I think that behind all the contemporary art, there is an idea always, which means that it could be done in doesn't matter which media. Sometimes it depends on the concept of the project. And if you can, so we are not in the 19th century when people are artists because they know how the composition and they know how to paint. It's cool to know this. I mean, the academical part of the education gives you more tools, just like you have more possibilities to express your ideas. So, and it's nice. And of course, it's all based on the concept. So if it's enough for your work to be presented in the digital media, no matter which, and it fits with your idea and it works. So go ahead. And if you think that it should be made in a traditional sense and it corresponds to your physical life, I don't know, your body or whatever. So this is like so it's another tool that you could find. It's really based on idea. I don't think that the value of the artist could somehow be lower with AI or not, because conceptually, like art is always about ideas anyway. And if the idea matches well with the production, with the of the artworks, it's fine. I mean, it's, of course, maybe there is a question more like, yeah, if AI generates for you some images and then you naming it as an artist that you just did it, that's a tricky question. But the same, it depends because when you really use, I don't know, AI in Photoshop or ChatGPT, yeah, sometimes it makes you bright pictures in any style. But okay, but it's just a very random thing,
No,
and you
no,
should you
not
should
so
know
random, because
what you do.
actually, even with ChatGPT, you can like use like deep learning, and you can learn your own ChatGPT by your own thing. For example, like I did, I teach my ChatGPT of how to create good composition. So I just like spent a few hours to show which composition is good, which is bad. And then now it creates for me absolutely different pictures than, for example, for other people, because it based on mine tiny preference. And so now it works much better. It means like I spend the time to teach ChatGPT to be better in my vision from my side. And it's actually also like artwork. I mean, like
And
you should
yeah,
understand what exactly you need, and you should know how to like explain it to ChatGPT.
and you should be agreed with result, and then you should correct if you need to correct.
I think that's really interesting what you're saying about the ChatGPT example, because it's almost like AI as another collaborator in one's vision as well, in a sense, which is quite an interesting way to to think about it as well. Um, so, I mentioned the Gazelle art panel, and when you were speaking about that, you mentioned having positive forecasts for AI and how civilization could potentially use AI to guide us in some, fundamental questions. You kind of touched on that when you were talking about government and AI, for example. So, why do you think that we need these positive forecasts on AI now? Why is that fundamental? And yeah, what are some of your like positive forecasts that you are looking at or
Uh,
would like to look at?
for example, in medicine, we know a lot of already things about that AI. If you use an AI and you give your medical details, analysis, and something to it, so it can tell you your like condition diagnosis like 90% precise, I think. Already it works with medicine because of big data. And another question, where all this data goes, and how people who owns this data controlling it. So that's another security question. But still, as soon as we already giving to AI quite sensitive things, if we could improve this algorithm to be efficient in our questions of living, so why not? It gives more opportunities. But there is an opposite side. For example, when there was an experiment in medicine, when there was a doctor prescribe like saying which diagnosis has a patient. There was AI saying this, and they were like a third version when they were together, and together it didn't work because no one knows for sure, but there are things that maybe because of the ego of the person that's saying like, man, no, I know better because I'm more experienced or whatever. But anyway, if there is not a competition, if it is like a living, and if something gives you another way of how you can manage the information, for example, big data, it's like kind of a filter actually. If we have a filter with this AI, it is okay to use it, but we definitely need to know in which conditions. We should not lose our humanistic tiny sense about all the things. We should be very precise in teaching it, because that's the question to people actually. How do we teach it? Do we teach it with what kind of vision we are presenting? And that's another question. So maybe it would help us to understand ourselves better. Then we should really understand what we're teaching, what we're explaining to people, and to AI, pardon, and then it would help us. But for sure, it's better than worser.
Yeah, there's more possibilities than
And
um
Yeah, and in the last project with this sapient work, there was a real
Mm-hmm.
idea if replace the kind of a president figure of the first person of the country by AI, so faceless thing, which is kind of interesting because there would not be any place for ego and showing like, so vote for me, I'm like the best, so you don't know the person, for example, you can just trust some texts. But if you develop in an algorithm, so it could improve, and decision making process could be better and better. Plus, like kind of government could control with people. Of course, everyone can check the open code, even if it's complicated anyway. So you can check how it works. It's like a straight democracy can be, huh?
Yeah, really interesting. Because I think like in Estonia, they actually have e-citizenship. I think I don't know, there are some interesting explorations of tech
Yeah.
um, influencing or, yeah, integrating into our systems of governance. It is actually a really interesting question. And, you know, as you talk about that sort of experiment that you were looking at with Sapient, I was wondering in your work or even just in the practice, does are you analyzing AI as well, or like you know, or will you do works that specifically analyze AI?
There was a funny project in 2018 when we were started to thinking about AI. We went to Centre Pompidou, like a museum, Pompidou in Paris, and we took the permanent collection of Pompidou, and we did augmented reality project. So when you come and see the classic works of Monet, for example, or no matter which, and it gives you a perception, like if machine would see the museum, with what it would compare the images that it sees and everything. And that was a kind of a bit of ironic idea of analyzing AI. So what it sees, like, for example, it doesn't see the composition. It sees that this painting has less view, for example, than SpongeBob video on YouTube or whatever. And that was kind of a funny story. But of course, we are trying to analyze it always. It's like a very philosophical question where we go. And of course, we need to understand the tools which are giving us the future and develop them, because it should, like, people should really participate, I think, in this part of life. It is important. Otherwise, it would belong to a couple of corporations, and it could be a bit different thing. So, in the
Absolutely,
worst sense.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's why we also wanted to start doing this podcast series. It's just about sharing information and demystifying this AI space, you know, to invite more people into that space. So, for a final question, when you're making art digitally, when you're making art using AI or other, you know, softwares and technologies, um, how do you approach the idea of like archiving, or how that those works continue to exist, or how will they be existing in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now?
The digital
What do you think about
ones.
that? Yeah.
Uh, so they are existing. So if you go to the museum and you see the video of Namjoon Pike, for example, from uh, 20th century and the middle, and you see how these old school TV screens are like showing with mixing with the sculptures or whatever. So, and you like this spirit, you like this video, you like these old screens as well. For example, we have our neighbor here, Eden, who works with also old screens like LCD, I think, screens, or not LCD with the big, you know, like the very, very deep ones. And it gives another perception of how you see how you see his art, for example. And that's the same. Yeah, technologies are improving, but people and history is not forgetting the images from the past as well. Yeah, they are filtering for sure. But anyway, it exists already. It would exist, and I'm pretty sure it would be in the better condition than any other material object from no matter which material. Because there, if you have file, if you're using it, if you see it, it's the same or less. But the question of the preservance of the things is important as well. So they preserve the digital preserves better than physical. That's for sure.
You're a true digital advocate.
Kind of.
But yeah.
Depends. Sometimes yes, but I like to criticize as well. But it's more in the works.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Priest of Cardinal
So,
Church.
Yeah,
Digital Church.
digital church of all religions.
so just to close off, are there any things that you're working on currently or looking forward to in the near future that you'd like to share?
So we have different projects now in Paris. So we'll make new works for next year. Also, we have some new projects with the opera, with theater, which is very inspiring, and it's a new universe for us that we never crossed with, and yeah, so a lot of stuff to do.
Amazing. That sounds so cool. We'll definitely be following. I think you've got like brilliant minds, brilliant perspectives. It's so great to be able to connect with you and speak with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Big
Thank you
pleasure.
for your time.
Big
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you
I
for your
hope that yeah. So we had some people who were interested as well. So it's
mm,
cool.
mm, mm, mm.
Really happy.
Yeah.
Whoa. You're just testing
Fire emoji.
filters.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ciao for now.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.